Session 5. Godly financial management. So I think my wife and I are really, really good with our money. I really do. I mean, one of the things I talk to people and they're like, hey, I want to start my own business. And I'm like, how are you with your money? Because if you're not good with your money when you don't have any, having more is not going to make you better with it. We're talking about godly financial management, stewardship, Matthew 25:23. It said, the master said, well done, my good and faithful servant. You've been faithful in handling the small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. I know that God really dealt with me on this topic and really dealt with me. And basically, this is what I felt like God said to me. I will not give you more than you can manage well. I will not give you more than you could be responsible for. So let me give you a little thing here. Responsibility increase will equal financial increase. So I just want to talk about maybe some practical things that I do in my own business. Is that I watch the money very carefully. Cash to a business is like blood to the body. I know how much money at all times is in every bank account, and right now we have 19 separate accounts. People in my office are like, how do you know that? I look at it every day. I follow the money coming in and I follow the money going out because I'm responsible for it. That is my responsibility, okay? I'm not a trained CPA. But let me tell you, I'm a CPA with my own money. I account for it. I don't know all the terms and, the chart of accounts and all that stuff, but I'll tell you what, I could figure some stuff out with my own finances because it's the money that God has entrusted with me. I have a responsibility. This is my responsibility to make sure that money is handled in a godly way. It's not mine. I am a steward of what God has entrusted to us. I take it seriously. I don't overspend. Okay, number one, the first thing when my wife and I got married and we started going on this journey that we call Christianity is we became tithers. That's got to be first. Listen, I talk to people all the time and they're like, well, why do you emphasize that? I say, because if you can't get that, you won't get anything else I say. In Matthew 4 or Mark 4, it says that the secrets to the kingdom have been given to you, and they're talking about the parable of the sower. If you don't get that, none of the other principles will even help. My wife and I, young Christians, we tithed, and we always tried to have enough money to give as God led us, and it wasn't a lot when we started, okay? I remember, I was thinking about this, Janet, this morning, as I've been on fire lately, you guys. I've been getting up at like 4 to 4:30 in the morning, and spending 2 hours in the morning with Jesus, and then I go to work out. And so when Janet wakes up, our downstairs is like got a cloud of the Holy Spirit. And so she gets the Holy Spirit in her coffee when she wakes up. And so some of the things that God has been showing me have just been, I think incredible as it portrays to management. So we're new Christians, and we gave this morning. The Lord showed me that exactly 20 years ago. It's like 20 years ago and maybe a week, like we bought our first home. We bought our first home exactly 20 years ago. Share more about that in a second. Okay, so we're talking about being good managers of our money. And so we don't overspend. Even now that we have more money, we try to live like we're making less and give like we're making more. You gotta live below your means. I mean, whatever your means are, if you live below your means, you give yourself the opportunity that you could sow. John 6:12-13, it says, when they had all enough to eat, he said to the disciples, gather the pieces that are left over, let none be wasted. Okay, here Jesus has just fed the 5,000, and he says, pick up the leftovers. Let none be wasted. I don't want to be wasteful. Okay, recently, I went through my closet, and I mean, everyone's got to do what God tells you to do personally, right? But I had 4 jackets. Only need 2. Gave 2 away. I had, like 9 pairs of shoes. I maybe wear 4 pairs. And 3 of them are sneakers, okay? No, men don't need that many pairs of shoes. I know women need 150 pairs. I don't know why. I do not know why my wife needs a whole closet for shoes. I do not know why. My wife and I, we done this thing with our credit cards, and it was really kind of cool that the credit card company came in and they did this deal with us, and it gave us a big chunk of float, to use, and then it also gave us airline miles. We're accumulating about 10 million air miles a year right now. That's a lot of miles. We can't use all those miles, and I travel a lot. We talked about it. We give away 20% of what we have to pastors and to people that have helped earn that, earn the miles. Here's the thing. I like to fly first class. It's kind of nice. If you've never done it, I would not recommend trying it. You won't go back. The Lord really started dealing with me about it was like 50,000 points for a coach seat for one of our trips, and it was 250,000 points for a first class ticket. And God really started dealing with me about that, and I'm like, I don't want to fly coach, God. I like first class. But if I was to fly coach, then I would be able to give 4 tickets away. We're going on this trip to a Christian business conference in Hawaii in a few months, and we're bringing 6 people. So instead of flying first class, I'm flying coach. Get to bring 5 people. And God really dealt with me about a couple things. Is because you'll get in the position that you could buy stuff for yourself. And God really spoke to me about, don't get into a position where you get everything you want. Because if you do that, you will become ungrateful for all the things that I've done in your life, and you will become spoiled. The only person in my family that I want spoiled is my wife. Because happy wife, happy life. And my wife is the hardest worker that I know. Out of the 4 of us, my son and my wife's the hardest worker, my son's second. I'm probably tied with my daughter for third. We all work hard, but man, my son and my wife, they can do it all. I just think harder. So we're talking about managing our finances. In 1997, my wife made the declaration that we were going to buy our first home. And so, I was just getting used to being married, And so she said, we're going to save to buy our first home. So this is how we did it. For 1 year, we didn't go out to eat. Didn't kill us. In fact, last night we had people over for dinner, and everyone's doing the Daniel fast, and I got spent like $150 and had dinner delivered, and but we cooked it ourselves. Cost us about 20 bucks. It was better than anybody else could have made for us. That year, I remember taking my lunch, and I would take like this bagel sandwich, and I would cut it in half, and I would have an apple and a banana for a whole year. I mean, I'm pretty simple. I pretty much ate the same thing every day, which I know is not, something that everybody wants to do. For our vacation, we went camping. I'm not a fan of camping. I'm just not. Now, today, like camping is like staying at a Marriott. But, we had a great time. Like we were focused. And we started saving for our first house. And like if you are in that mode of like, hey, I'm going to be careful with my finances. I'm not going to overspend. In that year, we saved, in 1 year we saved, and I mean like we were brand new at this. We were just, not making a lot of money. We probably made $100,000 that year, and we saved $46,000 in 1 year. And we bought our first home. Closed escrow. 20 years ago, almost to the day. It was like, I think it was January 18th, 1998, we bought our first home. I remember when I was buying our first home, and I signed all the papers, and I was paying $1,050 in rent, to my payment now was $1,552. And I was like, I signed the papers, and I drove away, and I go, what have I done? I was so afraid. I just want to tell you, in that first home that we had, I love that home. So many people got born again in that house. Tons of people got born again in that house. Tons of people got set free in that house. Tons of people got delivered in that house. The supernatural of God happened in that house. A few years later, after we bought our first home, we took a loan against our home. Oh no! Is that that's against the Dave Ramsey stuff? Well, we did. We took a loan from our first home, and we bought an apartment building, 21 units. Those 21 units, we actually ended up selling a year or two later for $550,000. We made 5 times our money. We traded it into another apartment building that again doubled. I can't even remember how many times I refinanced that house. About 6 times. Always to buy another piece of property. We bought this one piece of property in Moore Park, and the economy right after we bought it, the economy crashed. We were in this little time where they were giving these special loans. It was like 3% interest only. So we decided to keep the house. That house, the positive income off that house has been $3,000 a month for 10 years. Off of that house that we saved and scraped. You know what? That was a tough year. But think of how many supernatural things happened through that year. So sometimes they call it delayed gratification. Okay? But you know what? That time, literally we got to figure out, okay, we could survive. We could survive. This morning, I was fasting. Before I came here, I was like, do I need to eat, God? And the Lord really showed me, you know what? You could fast, and it's not going to hurt you, okay? We had a year where we scrimped and saved, and it did not kill us. The last thing that we did is we borrowed some money against the house, and we bought this piece of property in Simi Valley. Oh, you guys want to hear a cool testimony? So we bought this piece of property in Simi Valley, and we didn't know, or I didn't know, that it was in an earthquake zone. And so I was going to, first we were going to build a house there, and then I wanted to build some apartments there, and we couldn't build them because it was in an earthquake zone. And my wife had heard that you could, that God sometimes had healed land. And she said there was these times where God had healed the land. So it was written that God had healed the land. So my wife and I went together on this land that was supposed to have earthquake faults. and we prayed, and we kneeled on the piece of property in the rain and prayed. It's Second Chronicles. It says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways and hear from heaven, then I will hear from heaven and heal their land. And we with our hands up, and we prayed that over our property. And so we started working on it, and to build some houses on it, to build like their senior condos on it. And so the city said you have to do earthquake trenching because we know there's faults on that land. So for the last 5 years, we've been doing trenching, and then the city said, no, there's got to be earthquake faults here. There's got to be. So hire a scientist and show us. We hired a scientist. He said there's no earthquake faults. We kept trenching. And the city says, we don't believe you. Hire another scientist. Okay, we hired another scientist. You know, last month, the city approved that piece of land with no earthquake faults. Okay, and it's pretty cool because the faults go on this side, on top of us, and below us. They say they cannot believe there's no faults. When we're done with that piece of property, it will be worth probably $20 million, and we never would have had that property. We borrowed the money to buy that piece of property off our first home.